Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering unboxing. Today we're going to be looking at the recently released Commander 2014 product. I'm going to be doing 5 unboxings spread out over a number of days, and we're going to go through in Wooburg order, starting off with the white deck. Now this time round the Commander decks are mono-coloured, whereas previously we've seen 5 shard coloured decks and 5 wedge coloured decks. The other difference in this as well is the introduction of a planeswalker as what I would call the lead commander. Now what's also interesting with this, and sort of in keeping with the basic principles behind Magic and Magic rules, is the fact that we now have a planeswalker as our commander instead of just a straightforward regular legendary creature, is enforced in the rules by the presence of this additional line on the card. And when we open up the deck, we'll see this clearer. There's a little bit of reflection on the top of this pack, but basically down the bottom here it says Nahiri the Lithammancer can be your commander. And when we open up each of the decks, we'll see the same line along the bottom relevant to the particular planeswalker in that colour. Now I believe the other 2 generals, the alternate generals that are in here, are regular legendary creatures. So let's have a look at the back of the box, and just before we open this. So it lists the 5 decks here: Forged in Stone, Peer Through Time, Sworn to Darkness, Built from Scratch and Guided by Nature. It's obviously, being a Commander product, it's a 100 card deck. There's a foil oversized Commander card. They've introduced token cards into these decks, and there's 10 double-sided token cards. And I'm just trying to think, may have been the event deck where we saw like a double-sided token card. There is a deck storage box in here, although I don't think that you can actually use it for cards which have full-blown sleeves in it, although things like sort of the very snug fit penny type sleeves, but the real snug fit ones I think will fit in probably. And there's a strategy insert and a rules reference card. And as we look at this deck, we'll sort of get a feel for what the commanders care about, which is obviously important into what other cards we might find in here. I'm also interested to find out, within a monocolour deck, what the mana base would look like, because of course you're not going to have a need for the usual 2, 3 or 5 colour mana fixing that you would see in a multicolour deck. So are we going to see more utility lands in here, or maybe man lands? So let's take a look at our lead general, our lead commander. So this is Nahiri the Lithammancer. It's 3 and 2 white planeswalker. So going through the abilities here, this is going to tell us a little bit about what the deck will care about. So +2, we get to put a 1/1 white core soldier creature token onto the battlefield. You may attach an equipment you control. So straight away we're looking in the deck for stuff that cares about tokens, maybe even soldier tokens, and also white tokens, and also cares about equipment. That's reinforced by the second ability, which is -2 ability. You may put an equipment card from your hand onto the graveyard, or graveyard onto the battlefield. So again, caring about equipment. And then finally the -10, the ultimate. Put a colourless equipment artifact token named Stoneforge Blade onto the battlefield. It has indestructible, equipped creature gets +5/+5, and has double strike and equip 0. So we've actually got all three abilities care about equipment. One of them cares about tokens, and one of them also sort of cares about pumping and ability like double strike. The Planeswalker itself comes into play with 3 loyalty, and obviously that interacts with the values here. Okay, so let's actually start to look at the deck. Before we do that, let's just have a look at these cards. This is what constitutes the card box, by the way. And there does look like enough room for sleeves there, but the trouble is once you sleeve this up with regular sleeves, if they would fit in there, it's going to be fairly high up, so it's going to extend out from the actual box. Now I suppose you could take out that filler and try and get all of your cards in there, but things would be a bit tight, I think. So saying that constituted the deck box is I suppose a bit of an exaggeration. I mean, only if they're not really sleeved. So this has taken the place of the old How to Play guide, and this has been the product for quite a while now. And it's really just a basic rules reference card. So you have this breakdown of the anatomy of a Magic the Gathering card, plus also basically how basic lands function. And then on the other side, again keeping things simple, it's got the parts of a turn. Now obviously this is generic for playing Magic generally, and there are certain things you need to consider for the playing of Commander, although this video isn't really going to go into the ins and outs of Commander. But let's just open up the insert and see what is actually in here. So we have an impressive piece of artwork there as our background. Bit of backstory here as well about that particular general. Then normally you find that for one of the alternates there's a bit of backstory to that as well. And then over here we have the setup for the deck, how to use your commander, and actually how to build a commander deck if you were trying to do that from scratch. And then over on the other side we have information about how the deck plays out, and I don't know how clear this is on camera. It's a rather sort of bad combination of background. You've got sort of a dull yellow background with white writing, so not always easy to see. And it looks like this is a fairly aggressive deck by the description, but it does claim that you can play both ways. There's a more aggressive way of playing this, but also a more patient approach. So it says you should focus on getting creatures onto the battlefield in your early turns. Late in the game, when you have an abundance of mana, you'll be able to move your equipment around more freely to bolster your creatures. So it looks like it's a deck that is important to be able to move equipment around. And obviously that second ability we saw enables you to get equipment back from the graveyard, should that be where it ends up. So strategy relies on having plenty of creatures on the battlefield, but it's a good idea to hold some of your forces back in case an opponent casts a spell that can sweep the board. And then here's a breakdown of the deck. Unlike some of the product we see, like the dual decks, we don't get a particular breakdown of where these cards may have been printed from originally. And that's not a problem, but I quite like that, being able to see where the stuff comes from. Okay. So we've got some of our tokens on the top here, so we'll take a look at these. According to the box, there's supposed to be 10 of these. And these are double-sided. So we've got Stoneforge Blade, which has a germ token on the back. And we've got a Core Soldier token, which has Pegasus on the back. And I suspect, yep, all of these. So there's another Core Soldier. Angel with a cat token. Angel token again. Soldier token. Spirit on the back. So this also gives you some idea of the sort of tokens that the deck's going to be generating. Soldier and Spirit. Soldier and Spirit. So yep. And Core Soldier and Pegasus. They've obviously worked out roughly what would be the most useful in terms of the cards that are in this deck. So here's our basic mana pool. So with our basics, we're just going to see all planes here because this is the white deck. So looks like artwork's pulled from all over the place here, which is good. Nice to see a good variety of artwork in our deck here. And this is another nice and simple thing you can do with Commander product. You know, if you just want to change out the deck, one of the first things you can do is change it to basic artwork that you really like. And that's a fairly cheap change out to do. Obviously, if you're going to change it out for foil land, then that gets slightly more expensive. Or say full art Zendikar land. And that's also more expensive. We can see here that artwork looks like it does come from the Zendikar block. Okay, so there's quite a few basic lands here. It's going to be interesting to see what, like I said, what sort of non-basic, what sort of utility land is in here. And here we go. So here's our lead card, which we looked at earlier, our lead general. So don't really need to look through that again. So what else have we got? What alternates have we got here? We got Jezal Goldmane. That's 2 and 2 white for a 4/4 legendary creature cat warrior. Has first strike. The other ability here, 3 and 2 white. Attacking creatures you control get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of attacking creatures. This obviously cares about pumping attacking creatures. Kembakar Regent, white, 1 colourless 2 white for a 2/4 legendary creature cat cleric. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a 2/2 white cat creature token onto the battlefield for each equipment attached to Kembakar Regent. So this one cares about cat creatures or cat tokens and equipment. So fits in with the token theme in the deck and also the equipment theme. But it would be possible with this particular card, if you use this, maybe you would want to go down modifying the deck to more of a tribal theme, like a cat tribal theme, particularly with the Jezal Goldmane, and we'll see whether the deck already has an underlying cat tribal theme to it. I don't think so, looking at the tokens. It's probably going to see more of a soldier thing, but that's something to think about. So we have Containment Priest, 1 and a white 2/2 flash. If a non-creature token would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile it instead. So again, we're looking out for token synergy, we're looking out for, you know, white creature synergy, we're looking out for equipment synergy in these cards. Grand Abolisher, 2 white for 2/2. During your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures and enchantments. Mentor of the Meek, 2 and a white for 2/2. Whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 colourless. If you do, draw a card. Hallowed Spirit Keeper, 1 and 2 white for 3/2. It's got vigilance on it. When Hallowed Spirit Keeper dies, put X 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Silverblade Paladin, one colourless, 2 whites for a 2/2. It's got soul bond on it, so just to remind us, with soul bond you can pair the creature with another unpaired creature when either enters the battlefield. They remain paired for as long as you control both of them. And you can de-pair this soul bond by bouncing creatures or flickering creatures. And it'd be interesting to see if there's any spells that allow you to do that in the deck. As long as Silverblade Paladin is paired with another creature, both creatures have double strike. Because by bouncing or flickering it would allow you to repair it with another card. 2 and 2 white for 3/3, flying, has Lieutenant on it, and what that means is as long as you control your commander, Angelic Field Marshal gets +2/+2, and creatures you control have vigilance. So that's interacting with the fact that you have your control, your commander under your control. Geist Honoured Monk, 3 and 2 white, star, so there's going to be power and toughness stats within the actual body of the rules. Vigilance, Geist Honoured Monk's power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control. When Geist Honoured Monk enters the battlefield, put 2 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. So it cares about what you have in play in terms of creatures, but also will introduce its own companion spirit creatures into play as well. Requiem Angel, 5 and a white for 5/5, flying. Whenever another non-spirit creature you control dies, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Adarkar Valkyrie, 4 and 2 white for 5, flying vigilance. It's a snow creature angel. When target creature other than Adarkar Valkyrie dies this turn, return that card to the battlefield under your control. I'm not surprised actually to see Sun Titan in this deck. When I knew there was going to be a white one, I did suspect that this would be in here. So this is 4 colourless, 2 white for a 6/6 with vigilance. Whenever Sun Titan enters the battlefield or attacks, you may return target permanent card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. While we're talking about Sun Titan, the other thing they often do with these commander decks is you often get a cycle of cards throughout all the 5 decks, and that sometimes is the non-basic lands. But equally, it could be something like this, so it'd be interesting to see if we get all 5 Titans. I'm not saying we necessarily will, but we'll see in the later unboxings. Sunblast Angel, 4 and 2 white for 4/5 with flying. When Sunblast Angel enters the battlefield, destroy all tapped creatures. Twilight Shepherd, 3 colourless, 3 white for a 5/5, flying vigilance. When Twilight Shepherd enters the battlefield, return to your hand all cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. There's also persist on this creature, so when this creature dies, if it had no -1/-1 counts on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a -1/-1 counter on it. Angel of the Dire Hour, 5 colourless, 2 white for a 5/4. It's got flash, it's got flying. When Angel of the Dire Hour enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, exile all attacking creatures. So you can see also within this deck at the moment, I was talking earlier about tribal themes in Commander. We're very much seeing several angels in this deck actually. Sira Avatar, 4 and 3 white. So this is a mythic. Again, it's got power toughness as star, so we're looking in here to give us a clue about how that is created. Sira Avatar's power and toughness are each equal to your life total. When Sira Avatar is put into the battlefield, when Sira Avatar is put into a graveyard from anywhere, shuffle it into its owner's library. Armistice, 2 and a white enchantment, and for 3 and 2 white you draw a card and target opponent gains 3 life. So if you targeted yourself with that life, that's obviously going to contribute to your life total, which is going to synergize with Sarah Avatar in here. 2 and a white, we see mobilization. So soldier creatures have vigilance. 2 and a white, put a 1/1 white soldier creature token onto the battlefield. So this was what I was mentioning earlier about one of Nahiri's abilities was these various ability enhancements that were part of the ultimate. So that one was double strike, but we're seeing another card here which is giving soldier creatures vigilance. Sacred Mesa, so this is an enchantment, 2 and a white. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice Sacred Mesa, unless you sacrifice a Pegasus. For 1 and a white, put a 1/1 white Pegasus creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Marshal's Anthem, 2 and 2 white enchantment, it's got multi-kicker on it. So with multi-kicker, we can play it 1 colourless white. You may put an additional one colourless white any number of times you cast this spell. Okay, so you just pay that multi-kicker cost if you want. So as it stands, without playing the multi-kicker, creatures you control get +1/+1. If you pay the multi-kicker cost, and you can pay that as many times as you like, so when it enters the battlefield, you can return up to X target creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the number of times this card was basically kicked. Cathar's Crusade, 3 and 2 white enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. True Conviction, 3 and 3 white enchantment. Creatures you control have double strike and lifelink. Oblation, 2 and a white. The owner of target non-land permanent shuffles it into his or her library, then draws 2 cards. Benevolent Offering, 3 and a white instant. Choose an opponent. You and the player each put 3 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. Choose an opponent. You gain 2 life for each creature you control, and that player gains 2 life for each creature he or she controls. Comeuppance, 3 and a white. So you can see now we're moving into away from our creature spells into our other sort of spells of instants and sorceries and enchantments. So 3 and a white, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you and planeswalkers you control this turn by sources you don't control. If damage from a creature's source is prevented this way, Comeuppance deals that much damage to that creature. If damage from a non-creature source is prevented this way, Comeuppance deals that much damage to the source's controller. So rather appropriately named card. White Sun Zenith is in the deck. X and 3 white instant, put X 2/2 white cat creature tokens onto the battlefield. Shuffle White Sun's Zenith into its owner's library. Fell the Mighty, 4 and a white sorcery, destroy all creatures with power greater than the target creature's power. Nomad's Assembly, sorcery, 4 and 2 white. Put a 1/1 white course soldier creature token onto the battlefield for each creature you control. It's also got Rebound on it, so if you cast this spell from your hand, you exile it when it resolves. At the beginning of the next upkeep, you may cast this card from exile without paying its mana cost. Deploy to the front, 5 and 2 white sorcery. Again, it's putting X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is the number of creatures on the battlefield. So obviously you want to play that when you've already got quite a bit of stuff out there. Martial Coup, X and 2 white, put X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens on the battlefield. If X is 5 or more, destroy all other creatures. Decree of Justice, 2X, 2 colourless and 2 white, so we've got a quite complicated spell cast here. It's a sorcery, and we get to put X 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. It's also got cycling for 2 and a white, so we can just discard the card and draw a card for that cost. And when you cycle Decree of Justice, you may pay X. If you do, put X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield. Moving on to our artifacts now, we've got Master of Ingenuity, one colourless equipment. So we're going to hopefully see lots of equipment here. You may have Master of Ingenuities that enter the battlefield as a copy of any equipment on the battlefield. Pearl Medallion, 2 colourless, white spells you cast cost 1 colourless less to cast, so that makes sense. Loxodon Warhammer, another piece of equipment, 3 colourless to cast. Equipped creature gets +3/+0 and has trample and lifelink. Equip cost is 3. Stratascythe, 3 colourless, artifact equipment, has imprint. When Stratascythe enters the battlefield, search your library for a land card, exile it, then shuffle your library. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each land on the battlefield with the same name as the exiled card. And it's equipped 3. Sword of Vengeance, 3 colourless. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and it has first strike, vigilance, trample and haste. Equipped for 3. Bone Horde, 4 colourless to cast. It's a living weapon, so this comes into play with a 0/0 black germ creature token. So therefore this equipment in itself is going to pump in some way to stop that germ creature from just dying straight away. So the equipped creature gets +X/+X, where X is the number of creature cards in all graveyards, notice. It's equipped for 2. Moonsilver Spear, 4 colourless, equipped creature has first strike. Whenever a equipped creature attacks, put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying onto the battlefield, equipped for 4. Argentum Armour, 6 colourless, so reasonably high casting cost here, although not always a problem in Commander. Equipped creature gets +6/+6. Whenever a equipped creature attacks, destroy target permanent, equipped for 6. So now we're going to move on to our non-basic lands. And then behind that are sorceries and obviously a few other spells. Amira the Sky Ruin, so enter the battlefield tapped. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 7 or more planes, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Tap it, add white to your mana pool. So obviously in a monocolour deck, that's a logical card that's going to go in there. We've got some more planes here, a couple more. Arcane Lighthouse, it's land, obviously non-basic land. Tap it, add 1 to your mana pool. For 1 colourless, you can also tap it, and until the end of turn, creatures your opponents control lose hexproof and shroud and can't have hexproof or shroud. Drifting Meadow. Drifting Meadow enters the battlefield tapped. Tap it to add white to your mana pool, but it also cycles for a cost of 2. So it's got cycling lands. We've got Ghost Quarter in the deck. Tap it, add 1 to your mana pool. You can also tap and sack it, and it destroys a target land, but its controller can search out their library for a basic land card and put that onto the battlefield, then shuffle their library. We've got a Karoo in here. Now I was anticipating that they may put the so-called Karoo lands into the deck, so it'd be interesting to see if we've got the 5 cards from that cycle in here. Karoo enters the battlefield tapped. When Karoo enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless you return an untapped planes you control to its owner's hand. But what you get in return on this is you can tap this for 1 colourless and white. Secluded Steep. Secluded Steep enters the battlefield tapped. Add white to your mana pool. Another cycling card, cycle for a white. So basically if you don't need this, you can cycle it for something else. Temple of the False God. Add 2 colours to your mana pool. Activate this ability only if you control 5 or more lands. So some more cards. White Mane Lion. Got Flash. It's 1 and a white to cast for a 2/3. Whenever White Mane Lion enters the battlefield, return a creature you control to its owner's hand. Core Sanctifiers, 2 and a white for a 2/3 with a kicker cost of 1 white. It's not multi-kicker, so you can only activate this once. When Core Sanctifiers enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, destroy target artifact or enchantment. And obviously that kicker cost is actually a choice. You can choose to pay it or not to pay it, and obviously if you pay it you get that additional bonus. Flicker Wisp, 2 and 2 white for 3/1. It's got flying. When Flicker Wisp enters the battlefield, exile another target permanent. Return that card to its battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Sky Hunter Skirmisher, 1 colourless, 2 white, flying and double strike, 1/1. Celestial Crusader, 2 and 2 white for 2/2 with flash. It's got split second on it. So if you've not seen split second before, what happens is, as long as this spell is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. It's got flying, and also it gives other white creatures +1/+1. Brave the Elements. So for this we pay 1 white and we get to choose a colour. White creatures you control gain protection from the chosen colour until end of turn. So it makes sense obviously in a mono white deck. Condemn. It's instant. 1 white to cast. Put target attacking creature on the bottom of its owner's library. Its controller gains life equal to its toughness. So cards like this, which basically force creature cards onto the bottom of an owner's library, are generally really useful in a commander deck, in terms of basically stuffing an opponent's commander back into their library. However, in these particular decks, of course, we're using planeswalkers, so it's an interesting thing really, when you compare it to where you might be using a legendary creature as your commander and you'd be attacking with that. So it's going to make things different when you're playing these decks. Afterlife, 2 and a white, destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. Its controller puts a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Midnight Haunting, 2 and a white, put 2 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. Wind Shards, 1 and 2 white, target player sacrifices an attacking creature. It's got Storm. When you cast a spell, copy it for each spell cast before it this turn. Return to Dust, 2 and 2 white. Exile target artifact or enchantment. If you cast a spell during your main phase, you may exile up to 1 other target artifact or enchantment. Gift of Estates. If an opponent controls more lands than you, search your library for up to 3 plains cards, reveal them and put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. Spectral Procession is in here. So this has got hybrid mana, so you've got an alternative thing you can do here: 2 colourless or white, 2 colourless or white, 2 colourless or white. So for instance, if you were to just play with colourless mana, it would cost you 6 to cast. If you were to pay with all white mana, then only 3. And obviously all variations in between. Put 3 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. Skull Clamp, 1 colourless, equipped creature gets +1/-1. When equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards, equipped for 1. I actually prefer the other artwork for that one, I think. Soul Ring's in here, no surprise. 1 colourless, tap it, add 2 colours to your mana pool. Marble Diamond enters the battlefield tapped, and tap it to add white to your mana pool. But notice it's an artifact. Mask of Memory, 2 colourless. Whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw 2 cards. If you do, discard a card, equipped for 1. Swiftfoot Boots, 2 colourless. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste, equipped for 1. Commander Sphere, 3 colourless. And you can tap this, add to your mana pool 1 mana of any colour in your commander's colour identity. Sacrifice Commander Sphere, draw a card. Assault Suit, 4 colourless, equipped creature gets +2/+2, has haste. You can't attack you or a planeswalker you control, and can't be sacrificed. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may have that player gain control of a equipped creature until end of turn. If you do, untap it, equip for 3. I think the last card here is Lawseeker's Stone, 6 colourless. For a cost of 3 colours, you can tap it, draw 3 cards. This ability costs 1 colourless more to activate for each card in your hand. So there we have the deck based around our lead general, our lead commander, Nahiri the Lithammancer. Now there's one more thing to mention with this deck before I wrap up this video, and that's when they bring these products out, what they will also do is include cards that are new to Magic. So within this deck there are 15 new Magic cards in here, and as you've probably seen, there is also a number of cards which have alternative artwork on them as well. Okay, so there we have it. That's the Forged in Stone mono white commander deck from the 2014 line of commander products. Nahiri the Lithammancer. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.